So, welcome to Cinema Convos. This is the show where we bring guests with different tastes in film to have a meaningful discussion about the art of cinema. I'm your host, Yash, and I'm here with our special guest, Lewis. Today, we're discussing the film Transformers from 2007, which was written by Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, and was directed by Michael Bay and stars Shia LaBeouf, Megan Fox, and Josh Duhamel. Transformers is about an ancient struggle between two Cybertronian races, the heroic Autobots and the evil Decepticons. They come to Earth with the clue to the ultimate power held by a teenager. And before we get started today, I just wanted to issue a quick spoiler warning. If you haven't seen Transformers, we recommend checking out the movie first. And with that, I wanted to ask our first question to Lewis. So what's your first memory or best memory with this movie?
Well, first of all, thanks for letting me join you on the podcast here. Extremely excited. But to answer your question, though, man, there's just so many great memories with this movie, at least for me, because I think I was 11 when I first saw the movie back in the summer of 2007. So I was just going into my middle school years. And the one distinct scene from that movie that just always comes to mind whenever I think of Transformers is when Bumblebee transforms into a new Camaro. And without going into too many details, it was a pretty prevalent scene. Even to this day, whenever you watch that particular scene with Megan Fox and Shia LaBeouf, it's like, oh man, it's a sweet scene. So yeah, that scene definitely sticks out for me.
Why, if he's supposed to be like this super advanced robot, does he transform back into this piece of crap Camaro?
Oh, see, no, that doesn't work. See?
Move it, you're forward.
Great, now? See? Fantastic. Now you pissed him off. That car is sensitive. I mean, $4,000 just drove off. What?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a really cool scene because, Megan Fox is just like, why is he turned into this piece of crap car? And then, he just drives, you think Bumblebee's mad, and he kind of is mad. And then he just drives past the new Camaro and just turns into it. And then it's like, dang. And it reminded me a lot of there's a scene in the third movie, which we'll get into the sequels later, but it used to crack me up when Shia LaBeouf is super angry and he's like, you should be mad. Look at the jalopy I'm driving nowadays. So I feel like it just ties back to that scene because he knows he has a cool car that's also a robot. But as far as this movie goes, I also saw it when it came out in middle school. I had missed the theatrical run. I saw it in the Dollar Theater. Shout out Spring, Texas area Dollar Theater that may or may not be in business anymore. But yeah, I saw it with a family friend, and yeah, I mean, it was one of my distinct memories is one of my friends who I saw it with. Every time a cool thing happened, which is very often in this movie for middle schoolers, he's like, yeah, let's go. That was the whole movie experience for me. So that was pretty distinct. As far as this franchise goes, I've seen all of them except Dark of the Moon in the theaters. I saw Revenge of the Fallen opening night. Big yikes. But yeah, I love this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to revisit it this last week because of this episode. But yeah, I guess moving on to some of our discussion points, Lewis, what are some of you've already mentioned, one of your favorite scenes in the movie, but what are some of your favorite aspects about the movie? It can really be anything from technical aspects to anything else.
Well, just to kind of piggyback again off your response to the first question, I think also when I saw that scene regarding the Camaro and Bumblebee changed into the new Camaro, it definitely resonated with me because it's you know what? I told myself at a young age, I'm going to get a car like that. And lo and behold, next thing you know, I was able to fortunately be able to drive a red Camaro to this day. So 2012 model. So, but yeah, to go back to your second question, I think for me, definitely just the way that Michael Bay introduces some of his, at the time, it was the natural lighting of the film. It was more of at the time in 2007 when those graphics came out with the Transformers, it was I don't know about you, but I was kind of taken aback, wow, they actually it looked real. And obviously looking back now, 10 years later or so more, it's oh, okay, well, they're not as good. But at the time it was wow, that was awesome. The CGI was amazing. It actually looked like real robots. Even as a kid, I was wow, that's awesome. But just the element of his directing along, I think what definitely helped out too was you could tell there was like a little bit of sprinkle of Steven Spielberg's work as well. In essence, for me, the message was that it was a young guy just trying to find his place in the world, along with the help of his car, I guess, so to speak. So I guess for me, the number one theme was definitely just, there are a lot of surprises in all of us, even when we don't see extraordinary things in us. For example, Sam, at the beginning of the film, you would have never thought he'd be the one to save, in a sense, humanity. So, and at the end of the film, he does. But, on the outside, you would have been like, whoa, that guy's supposed to save us all, even though he was real goofy and, a nerd and, trying to be a popular kid. But yeah, that was just one of the major themes that stuck out to me.
A B minus.
You were hawking your great-grandfather's crap in my classroom.
No, kids enjoy. Look, can you do me a favor? Can you look out the window for a second? You see my father? He's the guy in the green car. Okay, I want to tell you about a dream, a boy's dream, and a man's promise to that boy. He looked at me in the eye. He said, "Son, I'm going to buy you a car, but I want you to bring me $2,000 and 3 A's." Okay? I got the 2,000 and I got 2 A's. Okay? Here's the dream. Your B minus, dream gone. Kaput. Sir, just ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Yes!
No?
A minus, it's an A though.
Oh, wait, I can't see. It's an A.
So I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll bounce off a couple of your thoughts. I think Steven Spielberg was on as a producer for a lot of these movies. So they had the budget, for sure. I agree with you that the visual effects hold up really well. I think in every single Transformers movie, whether you love it or hate it, the visual effects are always good. I think that's one thing that it did pretty consistently. I think the Shia LaBeouf is a likable character. I know a lot of people have given him a lot of crap for these movies, but I think he's relatable. He's an awkward teenager. He does act like a teenager. He maybe looks a little old, but that's always the case in these movies. To be honest, one of my favorite aspects of the movie is just his relationship with Bumblebee. It's like a genuine friendship. Like, to be honest, that I like that relationship more than the Megan Fox romance, like far more. Which doesn't work out because Michael Bay didn't like her or something. Enter Victoria's Secret model Rosie Huntington Whiteley. I'm like, where's Sam just scoring supermodels, dude? Like, I don't even know what's going on. But yeah, the relationship between him and Bumblebee is probably my favorite aspect.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember seeing the third film, I think Dark of the Moon, and I remember that's the one Megan Fox doesn't come out, and yeah, he ends up with another hot chick. So I'm like, yeah, there's something. I don't know what this guy's problem is or whatever, what he's got going on. But yeah, to hit on your point, to me, the original will always be the best. The rest of the franchise was like more of like, all right, let's make more money. But if you go back and you rewatch the movie, you'll understand why it's such a classic, at least to me. The whole relationship and dynamic forces between Bumblebee and Sam, and also his relationship with Michaela, or Megan Fox in this case. And just as a young guy, it's like it's definitely relatable. You see the pretty girl, and I think it goes for a lot of guys. When you were in high school, you were wanting to get her attention, you do whatever. In this case, he was wanting to get a car, and it just so happened it was a '67 Camaro. And that scene definitely, oh man, that was probably the most funniest scene from the movie, was when he finally takes the car out, and I think he heads over to the lake, right, with his best friend. And he goes to like show off his car, and then also just kind of show himself off. And then that scene where Michaela's boyfriend, I think he's a jock or whatever, it just like totally puts him in his place, and Sam is quick-witted jokes, so definitely relatable though.
So I thought I recognized you. You tried out for the football team last year, right? Let's go call your mom.
Oh, no, that wasn't like a real tryout. I was researching a book I was writing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's it about? Sucking at sports?
No, it's about the link between brain damage and football. No, it's a good book. Your friends will love it. It's got mazes in it, and little coloring areas, sections, pop-up pictures. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will say one thing that is kind of a criticism of all of these movies. The Michael Bay humor, some of it works. When his friend climbs a tree and he's like, "We're here to climb this tree," I think that's funny. But a lot of the jokes aren't as funny as I remember them to be. When I was in middle school, I thought these movies were like comedic genius. Like, I thought they were the funniest thing ever. And looking now, I'm like, okay, I can see why this kind of, bothered people. Michael Bay is kind of big on like stereotype humor and might not age very well looking back, but
Oh yeah, definitely.
but I think this first movie does genuinely try to have a good story. There's intrigue with the whole military stuff, and it comes together really well. And I'm gonna quote one of my favorite movie critics, actually, who's since passed away, but Roger Ebert gave this movie 3 out of 4 stars, which is pretty good for a big blockbuster. And he said, everything comes down to an epic battle between the Transformers and the Decepticons, and that's when my attention began to wander, and the movie lost a potential 4th star, which would have been a perfect score. Which is interesting because that ending action scene has always been like one of the highlights for me because I think it's awesome. Yeah, there's lots of like product placement thrown in there and like shots of just like beautiful women like screaming, Michael Bay stuff. But I think it's interesting because I think that's what the fans want to see of a big blockbuster, but the critics don't always necessarily like. There's a lot of technical stuff in this movie that the critics actually noticed, opposed to the rest of the series. Like it actually features some decent storytelling.
Yeah, that's what I meant by the original being probably the best storytelling. The rest are just, like I said, more of just, you could tell the studio was involved as far as let's see how we can make more money. But to hit on your point about Michael Bay's humor, yeah, looking back now, there are a certain, especially throughout not just this movie, but the franchise itself, there's a certain humor that's like, nowadays, I don't think it would fly. Definitely, I know in one particular scene in the Revenge of the Fallen movie, I know there was issues with ethnicities being involved, and
those 2 robots that turn into ice cream trucks are like
yeah,
supremely racist. Like
yeah,
it's not even like subtle; it's just overt.
exactly. And then also his emphasis on like just the shot has to be on a chick with like short shorts. To myself, looking back at it now, I'm like, yeah, I don't think that would be appropriate nowadays. But
The women are just like eye candy and like treated as such because he doesn't
yeah,
get good actresses. Like Megan Fox is gorgeous. There's no debate there between any of us, but she's not a good actress in any way. Like when
no,
she says dialogue, you're like, ah. She's like, I love you, Sam. And I'm like, no, Bumblebee loves you more than she does. That's what I'm feeling right now. Like, there's no emotion. There's nothing.
No matter what happens, I'm really glad I got in that car with you.
I'm afraid I'm gonna have to agree with you. Definitely, she's absolutely beautiful in every way. But her acting is just very subpar, I guess.
She's famous for her looks, and there's no shame in that. A lot of people are. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, absolutely.
and maybe she has
Has
maybe Megan Fox, to give her credit, she does have like an Oscar-worthy role out there for her somewhere where it's perfect for her. For a good example is for years, everyone was like Kristen Stewart, horrible actress, awful. But then when she started getting those like quieter like roles that suited her personality, you realize she's actually like a decent actress. So maybe something similar will happen to Megan Fox at some point.
Yeah, and she's still young, relatively young, so I'm sure she'll do a lot better.
But it's also so blatant because whenever whatever happened between Michael Bay and Megan Fox, I don't look into that much. Like whatever happened, it resulted in him not wanting her in the third movie. He had an opportunity to get a good actress in the romantic interest or just have no romantic interest. But it's just he just like, all right, like give me a supermodel who's not even an actress. And it's like you don't care about like the acting quality of your movie, clearly.
Yeah, exactly. The rest of the films like Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, I think Age of Extinction with Mark Wahlberg, and the last one was it the last night.
Yeah, there's The Last Night and there's also Bumblebee. And I'm gonna throw in an unpopular opinion real quick. I know these movies are flawed, but the only one I've truly disliked is The Last Night. I actually have fun watching some of these movies, and I'll tell you why. We'll talk about the sequels real quick, I guess. You can give me your take on which ones you like. Obviously, the first one we both like the best. I think that's pretty universal. But this is embarrassing, but I'm going to share it because it's fun for the podcast. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. When I was 12 years old, I loved that movie. Like I don't know what it was. I saw it in the
I'm glad you
theater.
said that. I'm glad you said that because that honestly, when it came out, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go with this is better than part one.
No, I came home and I told all of my friends at the time, Transformers 2 blows the first out of the water. It is an awesome movie. It has all the action. The humor is 10 times funnier. And like I thought it was amazing. So that nostalgia for me makes me still like the movie. I know a lot of people absolutely hate it, but I'm not able to look past the rose-colored glasses with the nostalgia. And it's still, I think it's still a fun movie. It's not as good as the first. I mean, I think that now. What I rewatched the whole series not too long ago, and yeah, the first one's the best. And I think my second favorite has to be Dark of the Moon. I think it's an acceptable blockbuster. Age of Extinction is kind of whack. I mean, like Mark Wahlberg shows up in the middle of Texas and he's like, "I'm an inventor from Texas," and I'm like, "No, you're not." Like,
You're Boston. Yeah, you're
and the girl from The Last
Bostonian.
Airbender shows up, and I'm like, "You picked someone from one of the worst movies ever made to be your eye candy, Michael Bay? Like, come on, bro. Like, why are you doing this to us?" And
Yeah,
then yeah, it's just a whole thing. And there's even a really uncomfortable scene in Age of Extinction where like one of the girls like legally we're allowed to date even though I'm 17. I'm like, bro, like I don't know if this is a real law, but like you shouldn't be like publicly announcing this to the whole world. Like, I don't know, Michael Bay.
let's just say, man, if I was the dad in that case, there's no way that would fly with me. That totally was an awkward scene with the whole like, yeah, well, whether you don't like it, dad, or not, whatever, we're legally, able to date, and that whole scene was just like, what? Man, Michael Bay. But to your point earlier about Revenge of the Fallen, I remember definitely when it came out, I was in line, and I think it was summer of '09, and I was there with some friends, and we had a blast. I mean, it was definitely a summer blockbuster movie. And in retrospect, looking back now, it's definitely, when you watch these movies or rewatch them, you definitely have to have that expectation, like there's summer blockbuster movies, not to be taken too seriously, especially with Michael Bay at the helm. For me, it's more of like an escapism, like just definitely as a kid, it was like that's what I had the opportunity to do, go to the movie theaters. But I will let you in on a funny story with Revenge of the Fallen, man. So I was actually supposed to go on a date with a friend who at the time I thought was, I was, trying to make her my girlfriend. So, this is the day of like when we have Walkmans to text. So yeah, I'm
Get a
there.
Walkman to text?
Yeah, I had like a Sony Walkman.
I didn't know you could text with
Yeah,
those.
it was like a weird
We definitely had more technology in 2009, bro. We weren't sporting Walkmans.
yeah, it was a red Walkman. I distinctly remember.
Dang, that was a vintage item even then.
Yeah, I should have kept it.
I mean, I had a BlackBerry back then, RIP BlackBerry. But I got an iPhone like 1 or 2 years later, an iPhone 4.
Yeah, I wasn't on Team iPhone at that point in my life.
I'm still Team iPhone.
But
You're a Team iPhone again now. Just let the world know.
yeah, I'm on.
You got those blue texts.
I got the newest one.
But yeah,
But back to my story really fast. Yeah, so I'm over here texting this girl, telling her, "Hey, Transformers just came out. How do you feel about going? What if we go see it?" And she was like, "Yeah, that would be awesome. But do you think your sister might want to come?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I was so naive and stupid." So I end up taking my sister with me, and the three of us are there watching the movie. But to top it off, man, my sister literally sits between the both of us. And this whole time I'm rewatching Revenge of the Fallen.
Bro,
It was just an awful experience.
that's such a hardcore friend zone move. Can your sister?
It was, man. Totally.
Should have just been like, no, either it's me or you, or no, I'm gonna go by myself and watch it again.
It was definitely a friend zone maneuver.
Yeah, dude, we've learned a lot since our middle school days.
And
But
I was
actually,
definitely
I mean,
chubby kid.
I went to see this movie with my family who had not seen the first movie, and all I told them was that there's gonna be some sex jokes in it. Just be ready. like I was kind of nervous because I was like 12 years old. My brother was like 9 or 10, and yeah, we saw it. And I like after the movie, my dad was like he hated that movie because he had no context, no attachment to the franchise at all. And then the next one was coming out, and I was like, hey, are we all gonna go see Transformers? Because we still used to see movies together like up until 2012, 2013. And my dad was like, yeah, I'm not watching Transformers. Like, hell no. Like you guys can rent it when it comes out or something. Like,
I honestly thought that college was gonna be like that, man, where it was like just a free for all, and apparently.
yeah, dude. And like, okay, there's again, we could have a whole episode just about creepy scenes in Michael Bay movies, but there's a scene where Shia LaBeouf goes out the first night with his like roommate and a few friends, and they're like, "Hey, we're hunting." I'm like, "What? Hunting like predators? Like what? Like who talks like this?"
First frat party's the game changer, boys. We're hunting in the wild now, so get your game faces on.
I can't stay long. I have a webcam date with my girlfriend.
That's so cool.
Oh, it's not.
While he's making up with his MacBook, I'm gonna be getting my spitsy freaky freak on. Let's roll. She's hot.
We're hunting.
Oh my gosh, it's just the thing about this. Is what I'll say in defense of Michael Bay. The movies I've seen from him, I've always found to be fun. They do have issues; they're not perfect, but he knows his audience, and he makes plenty of money from it. So he's doing something right from a business standpoint. But yeah,
it goes back to the spectacle,
I mean the explosions,
the explosion. You think about Armageddon,
the firework explosions. He also he totally toots his own horn in this movie. Like there's when the robots come, like the guy's running around like, "This is way cooler than Armageddon. I kid you not." And it's like, oh my gosh, Michael Bay made that movie. Like now I know that. I didn't know that when I first watched it.
Explosions from Michael Bay! Boom! Michael Bay explosion! Boom!
Oh my gosh, dude, it's just a mess.
Yeah, and then Dark of the Moon. I think I would have to, if I wanted to rank them right now, I would definitely, obviously, number one be the original, the first one, and then I would probably put Dark of the Moon right before Revenge of the Fallen, if only because I think the storyline is, even though it's not as cohesive or like structured as the original, I thought it had a slightly better storyline than the second one. The second one, I think the second one was made during the Writers Guild, the strike back in 2009. So that's when like a bunch of the Hollywood writers were like on strike. And I think at the time the movie was being developed, it ended up being shut down. And then they were like scrambling, like put a last minute story together. But
yeah, I don't know.
Definitely Dark of the Moon. I would probably like rank above. And then Age of Extinction, and then The Last Night.
Yeah, The Last Night is the worst for me, like without a doubt. The special effects are there, but that was the summer. I don't know if you remember. That was the summer where like every summer blockbuster was like, let's just make our main character evil and then like turn good again. That was like Fast and Furious did that. Transformers did that. Optimus turned evil. Like it was like a consistent trend I was noticing that year. And I was like, these franchises are out of ideas. And then when Bumblebee came around, it got decent reviews, and I was like, okay, let me check this out. Even though it has significantly better reviews than the first Transformers, I don't think it's as good for sure. It's a nice new direction. It's a very family-friendly movie. There's no weird like Michael Bay stuff in the movie.
Or sexualizing young women. It's like,
yeah, like it's Haley Steinfeld in a strong like female role, not being objectified for like 2.5 hours. So it's different from the other ones. Oh man,
I could swear, and then also he's like got this, I don't mind it at all, but like man, he's
I mean, like
he's definitely, I don't know. There's always like a distinct scene in every Transformer movie with the American flag going on, like.
Oh yeah, he's there's the American flag, the fireworks explosions.
But don't even get me started on the sunset. I mean, is it me or is he always using like a natural sunset lighting, like in all his movies?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like sunset moments. In the Transformers franchise, there's a lot of product placement. Like the Xbox 360 turns into a robot, Mountain Dew machine.
According to the calculations on my Microsoft Surface, they have advanced cloaking technology. The Microsoft Surface confirms it. Microsoft Surface.
My Samsung Gear S2 watch says the same thing.
And the worst example of it that is in Transformers 4: Age of Extinction, which is like Mark Wahlberg like hits a Bud Light truck and just grabs one and takes a swig. And I'm like, dude, you're in the middle of a fight and you're just gonna take a swig of Bud Light, like just to promote the product. Like it's too much. It's too much.
I would be worried about him if he's got alcohol.
This is why you're not inventing anything successfully. You're too busy drinking Bud Lights in the middle of the day. I'm being a savage. I love Mark Wahlberg though, but the Transformers movies are not his finest hour.
No. But I remember when news first came out, I was like, oh man, that's gonna be pretty cool, Mark Wahlberg. But no, I was unfortunately that he wasn't able to save the franchise. Shia LaBeouf was an awesome actor. I think he honestly did the best that he could, and you can tell too. He definitely pours his heart and soul into his acting. And he does sometimes come out as over the top with like yelling Bumblebee every
Optimus.
or Optimus. Yeah, definitely.
Or like the no, like you know how he talks really fast.
No. See, no, get no.
Like he's on the bike. No. Like, you know, going super fast.
Yeah. I think it definitely goes back to Even Stevens' day for sure when he was a kid actor.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen the movie? Have you seen the movie Honey Boy?
I've seen parts of it, yeah. And
yeah, he wrote that film, and it's inspired by his own life. And you realize like this guy's gone through so much, and knowing all of that, like I really empathize with the guy quite a bit because I mean, first of all, I think Shia LaBeouf is one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood.
Yeah.
When he was in the 4th Indiana Jones movie, everyone was like, Shia LaBeouf ruins the movie, and I'm like, no, like Indiana Jones being in a fridge and getting nuked and surviving kind of ruins the movie. not Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, I thought he did awesome, and I think that was 2009 as well. News was coming out like he was coming out in all these blockbuster movies, and I remember Indiana Jones. Go see that one with my dad, and I mean,
I like that movie as a blockbuster. It's not as good as the other ones, but it's fine.
Yeah. You know, I think that one gets too much flack, to be honest. I'm like, it was a summer blockbuster movie, and yeah, I mean, obviously, you can't compare it to the original trilogy, but that one was a pretty good one.
You know, Shia LaBeouf is doing a lot of more like low key stuff nowadays. There's a movie called The Peanut Butter Falcon that he was great in from 2019. But yeah, I'm really glad to see him back. Again, as you said, like I think with blockbuster movies, especially franchise movies, people always get this expectation, regardless of how good or bad the franchise is, because like every single Transformers movie made money, and I'm part of the problem for sure. You know, the positive reinforcement. I'm like, this movie has bad reviews. You know, it doesn't look like anything new. But I show up the next day. Here's my money. I'm seeing it on the biggest screen you have. Let's go. You have 3D. I'm in. Let's do it. You know, like. So I think with these blockbusters, I think if I can have fun watching a blockbuster, that's all I ask for. In Age of Extinction, I had enough fun to where I got through it. But in the last night, I felt bored. I'm like, this is all like rehashed. I'm kind of over it. The visual effects are great, but I've seen it 4 other times. And I don't know. I think every franchise reaches the point of burnout. It's the art of making a good series is limited to very few. Like I said, with the start and end in mind, like the Dark Knight trilogy, just for one example. That I always mention Batman in like every podcast episode, it feels like, but you know, that movie has a beginning.
Hands down, one of the greatest trilogies, I think, for sure. Not just any, you know, obviously it's a great superhero movie, but I think it's just an awesome movie overall. Like what one did with that franchise, reinvent it. And I think if the Transformers franchise ever wanted to do something like that, they would have to get a director that can obviously something similar, kind of reinvent or
and I think this first movie, it takes itself seriously. Like it's like if there was a movie about talking fighting robots, how can we make it plausible for a live action movie? And it makes a solid attempt. Like, you know, with like the Transformers showing up in the desert in the military, like fights them off. Like the whole buildup is really well done. And I think this movie also, like, I mean, one thing I always say about movies also when it comes to acting is like some people are bad actors, actresses for sure, but they can only be as good as what they're given as far as dialogue goes. And I think considering the dialogue in this movie, like Shia LaBeouf gives a pretty honest effort, like you said. So I'm a fan of his. Megan Fox, I mean, I'd love to hang out sometime, but I don't know if I want to see you acting.
Yeah, I think she's busy with the MGK right now. MGK.
Why is he dropping albums with like sad songs then? He should be happy.
I thought he was a rapper. Now he's like doing punk rock or something.
Oh, dude, I'm really into his new stuff though. I gotta say, I think it was a good switch for him, like the Black Bear-esque type music, like kind of like sad boy vibes. But like also they kind of have like their bangers, not like slow songs. He's like lonely, like, you know, it's like a banger. It's like the words are like, oh, are you okay?
You gotta be careful not to be too engulfed with your lyrics.
Yeah, dude. I mean, But yeah, so I think this movie is competently written for in terms of a blockbuster. Like it has a good story, and most of the humor does work here. It kind of gets worse along the franchise. I think it was great when I was younger, but I think the humor that Michael Bay brings, sometimes it is funny in other movies.
I'm sorry to bother you.
Maggie!
Listen, I need your
No!
help.
This is my private area, my place of zen and peace.
Listen to me.
Who is? Shut up, Grandma! What are you doing here?
Just give me a break, will you?
Grandma, drink your prune juice!
Yeah, so I mean, talking about Michael Bay, what are some of your other movies by him that like
Oh
stand out to you?
man. Well, definitely none of them were Oscar worthy. I'll just flat out say that right now. But his movies are definitely blockbuster, action filled movies. One that comes right to mind is Armageddon with Ben Affleck, Bruce Willis, which is a little exaggerated as well. You got I think was it a meteor coming to Earth? A spoiler alert: Bruce Willis dies to save his daughter Liv Tyler. But
That's a cheesy movie, but I enjoy it for what it is.
yeah, definitely.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like I think in general, a lot of his movies, like you really can't look at the critic reviews. Look at what the audiences are saying because the critics just bash this guy. Like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, it's one of those you'll find it on Rotten Tomatoes. It would be like 78% of the audience liked it, or 82, and then like 20.
This
20%.
movie, Transformers 2007, has a 58%, which I think is criminally underrated because I think it's a great movie. It's a very good blockbuster.
To your point, it's one of the they put it in a way that was relatable because it just made sense. Like they didn't exaggerate too much, unlike the other movies in the franchise. This one seemed more grounded, and that's something looking back when I think about it, I can actually appreciate even more because it's like it seems grounded. Yeah, there was obviously a few scenes one could make the argument like, oh man, that's over the top, or that's a little too. Yes, I get it. You go with the expectation you're watching robots fighting, but the take that they went with, which is an alien robot introducing itself to a young high school kid, and then developing a friendship with that individual. I mean, that's awesome. And then, like I said, it's definitely looking back. I can definitely see myself in Sam's shoes, just yearning for an adventure. And I think there's one particular scene. Thinking about it right now, where Bumblebee just got done fighting one of the robots. It's one of the first fight scenes with Bumblebee, and Sam and Michaela are going to the car. Bumblebee opens up the door to get them in, and they're both looking at each other, Sam and Michaela, and I think Michaela asked him, "What are we supposed to go in the car?" And then that's when Sam's like, "Well, you'll never know, right? 50 years from now, you'll never know if you had the courage to get in the car." So it's just little things like that, definitely that resonate with me to this day. And it's definitely, that's why I consider it a classic, just certain elements like that.
For sure. I mean, I think this movie has a theme and feel like it has a sense of wonder and adventure. I think either adults can watch it and think about their childhood, or like even like not like super young kids, but like when I was watching this movie first time, I was 11. It was the perfect movie for the time. Like it had action, had comedy. It wasn't like too explicit. It had like some like jokes, and I was like, oh, like that's a little edgy. But it's a good
Yeah.
it's a good movie for what it sets out to do. And I think when it was made, I doubt they were thinking about the sequels right away. I think it was more of after the success of this movie, they're like, okay, we got to make more of these. But yeah, I think the sense of wonder, it really comes from like one scene. Like my favorite scene in this movie is actually the scene when the robots arrive to Earth. Like, and I think the score is really good in that scene. Which I don't usually talk about the score in Transformers movies, but the score in this movie is really good for what it sets out to do.
Oh yeah, no, I think I forget his name. It's not Hans Zimmer.
It's not. It's someone else. Let me look.
Yeah, but he worked with Hans Zimmer. I think it's Steve.
Let me get the name for you.
Lomsky or something like that. But yeah, the soundtrack is definitely awesome.
Yeah,
it's something you appreciate too, looking back now.
Yeah, Steve Jablonsky, and the song is "Arrival to Earth," and it's beautiful. Like it's such a great moment. It's like whether you whether you owned action figures, whether you watch cartoons of Transformers, it's that moment when you realize you're watching a live action Transformers movie, and the sense of wonder, it's its peak.
everywhere. This is easily 100 times cooler than Armageddon. I swear to God.
The only part I have an issue with is when, like, when the guy's like, "This is cooler than Armageddon," but besides that, like, it's a great moment in the movie. I don't like when directors toot their own horn a little bit too much. It's a little narcissistic and cocky, but
For sure.
but it's also like a cameo, I guess, like I mentioned, of his own other films. But yeah, that's my favorite scene in the movie.
And then one thing that I definitely wrote down, just a few notes here, but one of the main themes I wanted to also bring up, and I think I had mentioned it before, but I kind of want to just elaborate it, was definitely that it's a movie about people being more than they initially appear to be.
I mean, more than meets the eye, right? That's the whole thing.
Right? Exactly. More than meets the eye. Yeah.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons.
And then realizing that they're more than realizing their potential along the journey. And if you think about it, I mean, Sam is just like he's supposed to be like a regular, typical teenager. Well, regular in the sense that he's relatable through his, specific traits, like being goofy and, liking the popular girl and wanting to be popular. And I think in the later films, they make it out to be like he's actually the chosen one. But if you take those out of the equation, basically, he's a basically relatable teenage kid. And so throughout the movie, he develops the bravery and the courage to help out the Autobots. When he knows that he could just turn the other cheek, so to speak, and just say, no, I'm not, I can't, I'm scared. And I think that's definitely something that a lot of people, like you said, either young kids that are struggling with, and I think, to be quite honest with you, that's why I find it super relatable to me, because I remember during that time, I was just transitioning from one school to another school on the other side of town. I was kind of scared in the sense like, man, I don't know who I'm going to meet. And when I saw this movie, just looking back now and seeing Sam in that, predicament, so to speak, it's like, as a kid, I was like, man, I wish I had that courage. And that can be applicable to anyone, whether you're young or old. But yeah, that's kind of one of the main points I wanted to drive home.
For sure. And a lot of these, bouncing off your ideas, a lot of these live action remakes that are based on either cartoons or something else, you see it a lot with kids movies. Most recently, I saw it with the abysmal Tom and Jerry, hopefully off HBO Max soon. I'm just counting down. I want to leave the face of the earth. But the problem with these movies, like Tom and Jerry, the Smurfs, sorry about the rant about Tom and Jerry, is an awful movie. I can't believe I watched it. But
hey, it wasn't too bad, man. There's a few elements.
Dude, I loved Tom and Jerry as a kid, and I just wanted to see Tom and Jerry like beat each other up for like an hour and a half. I would have been totally happy. But the point I'm getting at here is why I bring it up, is that these movies will bring in human characters that you're not really there to see if you're watching it for nostalgia. But in Transformers, what I like is I think Sam Witwicky is likable, and the military soldiers like Josh Duhamel, they're likable. Their banter shown like first in the movie. I think because the human characters are likable and the robots all have like unique personalities, I think it's a good like complete package for everyone. But later in the series, I would say after Sam was no longer in the series, I think there was an opportunity to, show them, maybe make a prequel like War for Cybertron or like something cool with just the robots. They never really did that. They always had to have the human character element. But in this movie, it works the best, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would be game for a prequel of that nature if they were just to introduce the robots. Because like you said, if you involve the humans, yeah, it's relatable, but I'm at times I was more interested, like, okay, well, what would the robots do without the humans in the equation?
Show us their planet, show us the dynamic of their world before they came to Earth, because the franchise at one point became like Optimus Prime saying like the humans are like, you guys need to leave, and Optimus is just like, oh well, if we leave, you guys are totally screwed. They're like, we don't care, YOLO. Then they leave, and bad guys come down and kill everyone, and then they're like, Optimus was like, see, told you. And like that's the whole franchise after the first movie. And like it gets kind of lazy, I guess, when it comes to coming up with the premises of the movies. I thought the dark side of the moon, I thought that was kind of cool, that like there's a whole side of the moon that we haven't seen, right? And like they discovered it during the moon landing. I think that movie actually had like a plot. One of my problems with this movie, I will tell you, and you might have the answer, maybe I missed a piece of dialogue that was important or something, But I think when Optimus Prime tells Sam, if all else fails, put the cube in my chest, then he puts it in Megatron's chest. I want to know, why did Optimus like not just say put it in one of the bad guys' chest? Like, it'll destroy the Allspark and also take out like a bad guy, you know? It's like, why is Optimus so high and mighty? Like, no, sacrifice me. It's like, bro, you can use this as a weapon to kill one of the bad guys. Like, are you serious? Like, I know you're a good guy, but like, I would have been
My
like, take that.
question is,
I'd have been like, take that cube, aim it right at Megatron, right in the chest. That's what you need to do. You know, that's what I would do if I was Optimus. But
Sam, put the cube in my chest now! Sam! No, Sam!
Yeah, and my question is, okay, so let's say Sam does hypothetically put the cube in Optimus' chest. Does that kill off the Decepticons, or are they still there to?
you'll take out their leader. I think it's a start. I mean, the rest of them can take out the other ones, I'm sure.
I would have loved to
Doesn't
see that,
Megatron,
but
doesn't
do that with
Megatron come,
Optimus.
I mean, Megatron comes back anyway, so as like, he's not even the main villain in the second one, right? The Fallen's the villain.
Yeah, and Fallen's supposed to be like in like part of the Prime group or something.
Yeah, like the Fallen is an actual character, which was really confusing back in the day because I was like, oh, someone's gonna come back from the dead. Like the Fallen, like Megatron's the Fallen. And he does come back, but he's just kind of on the side, like, yeah, I obey the Fallen.
That's the one where what's his name? Megatron's like henchman. I forget his name. He like flies off to like a different planet, right, or something. Like,
I don't know. Okay, but I will say one more. I'll give Revenge of the Fallen one more piece of praise. It's probably like the third Blu-ray disc I owned. I had this movie on DVD, the first one I watched on DVD the other day, and I was like, oof, like this is ancient technology now. First world problems, but man, I was watching it and I was like, yikes.
Dude, I have the complete set on Blu-ray.
Nice. Yeah, I have 2, 3, and 4 on Blu-ray. I'm not gonna buy 5 because I don't like. I have Bumblebee on Blu-ray as well.
I just have the first 3 and Age of Extinction.
Yeah.
It was like a special edition pack.
But I kid you not, dude. I had extracurricular activities. Like this is how deep my love for Revenge of the Fallen went. For a solid week after buying it, I'd come home, start it. Whenever I have to leave for like Taekwondo or whatever, pause it, come back home, finish the movie, next day, repeat. Like that was my schedule. Just watching Revenge of the Fallen at least like 10 times that week. And looking back, I'm like, how did I love this movie this much? It's not a bad movie, which is
no.
People might get mad at me for saying that, but it's not a bad movie for what it sets out to do. It has this. To be honest, if you love the first Transformers, you will like the sequels. That's what I think, at least. If you just liked the first movie, there's a chance you won't like the sequels because they're not as good.
Yeah, I think and I've definitely heard that argument. Was like I barely liked the first one, so I don't think I'm gonna like the others. And to each their own. I mean, like I said, you definitely have to have that expectation of going in with the understanding that these are blockbuster / comedies, action filled. You're not gonna get a lot of content other than the original. It's more grizzled and steak.
Yeah. One more criticism of Michael Bay movies in general. They're always like 2.5 hours long, and there's no justification for it. Like he could cut like half an hour is just product placement. To be honest, like it's just take it out of the movie. You can fund these movies on your own. You got so many hits.
What about Pearl Harbor?
Isn't Pearl Harbor even longer? Like it's over 3 hours.
I think so. I
haven't seen Pearl Harbor. I've heard pretty bad things. That's why I haven't watched it.
It's with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I heard it's like Titanic with Pearl Harbor, but not as the romance is kind of more like eye rolling. I don't know.
I think she ends up being pregnant with the other guy's baby.
Wow. I'm not gonna make any comments here, but I had a few thoughts. a few songs came to mind by some rappers.
There's Valdez, Jose Loyal.
Well, I wasn't gonna be that overt about it, but there was one movie that's actually a pretty solid movie called 13 Hours. He did in 2016.
Oh yeah. See,
that was actually one of his.
John Krasinski and a few other smaller time actors, but John Krasinski is the biggest actor in that one.
But that's one of his only. He's made a couple like that, and Pain and Gain are inspired by true events, which I saw Pain and Gain recently too, which is kind of a strange movie, but it's not bad.
Your problem is you don't have quads, man.
I think Pain and Gain is severely misunderstood. a lot of people watch the trailer and they're like, well, he's making a comedy about these like horrible people. I'm like, no, if you watch the movie, he's making fun of them. Like they're so stupid. Like he's definitely like criticizing them in many ways by making it a comedy, a dark comedy at that.
All of my heroes are self-made. Rocky, Scarface, all the guys from The Godfather, they all started out with nothing and built their way to perfection. The way to prove yourself is to better yourself. That's the American dream. I have no sympathy for people who squander their gifts. It's sickening. It's worse than sickening. It's unpatriotic.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I thought that one was pretty funny.
Yeah, when Michael Bay has the ability, when he has the opportunity to make an R-rated movie, like he goes in, like he commits to it. Like both the first, like Bad Boys 2 is one of the worst reviewed movies, but it's such a popular like cult classic. Like people love Bad Boys 2. So that's another example of the reviews and audience score not aligning. But my favorite Michael Bay movie, real quick, actually, is actually this movie called The Rock. Have you ever seen that one?
I've heard of it.
It's one. It has Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, and it's just like it's a pretty generic action movie. They go to Alcatraz and like there's like a chemical they have to like I don't know get rid of or something. So it's a very 90s action movie, but it's a lot of fun. It's one of his best movies for sure.
I'm gonna have to check it out then, because I know I've heard some decent reviews on it for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely one of his best reviewed, if not the best reviewed. Like it's a good movie. It's cheesy. It's super cheesy, but it's a good time.
For 13 hours, when
I like that movie too. That was a good one.
And I heard about that one. I was like, oh man, it's Michael Bay. I just know he's gonna.
It was a Michael Bay January release. That was like a red flag. A January movie is always January is when they dump the garbage. So
yeah, January you can associate it with trashy movies.
Yeah, if you look back on movies that came out in January, you will see a trend. I promise you.
What about The Revenant? I think that one came out in January, no?
That was technically December. It got a wide release in January.
Oh, that's right.
Movies that get a wide release in January, that's the garbage. Like always. There's always a few exceptions. I think Split was an exception. I'm not Shyamalan Split. But for the most part, and they probably released in January because they were like Shyamalan's hit or miss. So we're gonna release it in the garbage month just in case. Just in case the twist is not good. But that movie is great. I love Split. In fact, I like Split and Glass. But that's a whole other franchise, whole other filmmaker, whole other style that we're not going to.
I think that Bear should have won the Oscar in The Revenant.
Who? The Bear? I mean, the Bear was about to take it from Leo, but Leo was like, nah, this is my year.
Yeah, I finally need one after, apparently they didn't like my work on The Aviator / Titanic.
The Wolf of Wall Street, dude. That's one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. Such a good movie.
And
Matthew McConaughey was great. I'm gonna say one more controversial opinion. I think Leo should have won that year. I'm just gonna say it.
Really?
I think so. Matthew McConaughey lost a lot of weight. Obviously, was an amazing job in Dallas Buyers Club, but Leo, I remember seeing a review for The Wolf of Wall Street, and the excerpt was Leo's performances in this movie is probably the wildest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's like a not exact words, but I was like, yeah, I believe it. It's crazy.
That's when I fell in love with Margot Robbie.
And that was her big break too.
She was a stunner. Yeah, that's when the world finally met her.
See, Margot Robbie is an example of a gorgeous woman who's also a good actress. So, I mean,
can you believe at the time she was 24 when she filmed that?
She's like our age?
Yeah.
No way, dude. She looks older.
At the time, yeah. That's what I'm like. I had just found it out a week ago or something.
Dang. It makes I mean, a lot of the famous singers are our age, like Dua Lipa, Camila Cabello. They're all our age. So
what are we doing with
I think Post Malone as well. So and they're all our age, dropping winning Grammys and making hit songs, and we're talking about Transformers. So.
We're over here talking about Transformers, and
at least one of the good ones though. Oh boy, this has been fun. This has been a fun episode.
Over here struggling to pay our student loans while they're making, millions.
A third of her paycheck for Wolf of Wall Street could more than cover my entire student loan. Oh boy. Oh gosh. Leo, if you're hearing this, I'll be your friend if you pay off my loans. It's good for the environment. I don't even know. It's too late to have conversations.
Someday you need to tell your audience about the statistics homework telling.
What, when we ask Price for help? I mean, I can just share the story. It might be totally out of context, but it can be on this episode.
You need to share it. You definitely need to share it.
Okay, I mean, I'll share it right now.
Yeah.
So Price, who is our friend Price, was like a statistics wizard, still is probably. He like mastered it and everything.
He got his master's from
Got his master's for statistics and analytics, I think, and something like that. I'm sorry if it's wrong, Price. But me and Lewis were working on a statistics assignment. This is and we were struggling. So we texted Bryce. And Lewis loves the story, but we texted him like, "Hey, like, can you help us with the homework? Because we don't know what we're doing." And he just goes for like 15 minutes because he was at a meeting, so he's probably busy. And then I find a gif.
It was 9 o'clock at night, Yash. I don't think he had a meeting.
No, I mean, I think
you want to help us out.
I mean, organizations have meetings and like they have social stuff after it. So, anyways, beyond the point, it's been 15 minutes. And I was just like, I sent the Will Smith gif where he's like crying in the pursuit of happiness. And it just said, "Please help." And I sent that because that's kind of how we felt. We were about to cry. This homework was giving us a hard time. But yeah.
I would definitely I definitely look forward to your college reunion special. You're able to get all of us on board and just kind of talk about our.
Y'all got to pick a movie to talk about. We can't drift from the topic of the show.
You would then we definitely should have brought up The Hangover.
Oh yeah, that one's already released. Oops.
Tracy, it's Phil. Yeah, listen. We fucked up.
Let's get back to Transformers because we've covered a good amount of the topics, but there's a few more. I know you've talked about how like Sam Witwicky, especially when you watched it, was like a relatable character for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wondering, whether it's the human characters or the Transformers, who's your favorite character and why?
My favorite character would obviously have to be Sam. And the reason being, like I said, he was relatable at the time. He still is to a certain degree, but when you're an 11-year-old watching this movie, it's like, I want to be just like Sam.
Well, I think the problem is a lot of us are like Sam in the beginning.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't end up with the pretty girl as pretty as.
I don't think I ever had
that shouldn't stop you though, obviously.
Yeah, and speaking of the pretty girl, one of the product placements in this movie that I think is really funny, I have to point it out, is like when Sam's like on his like when his on the pink bike, right? He's like running away from, was it Starscream or Bumblebee? He's chasing after Bumblebee, right? And then the Starscream starts chasing him. Whoever the police car is.
Yeah.
But he runs into Michaela, and then she's at Burger King. I'm like you really gonna make her eat at, you're really gonna make her eat at Burger King for the product placement? Like at least do like Chick-fil-A or something, like Whataburger. I don't know, freaking Burger King. Burger King is not the king of fast food. Okay, I'm sorry, Burger King. Step your game up. Every time I go to Burger King, which is the closest fast food restaurant to my house, I wait there for like 20 minutes for like one sandwich. And that's like a good day. 20 minutes is the minimum. It's not fast food. I can get the Chinese restaurant near us can make their food quicker than Burger King. Like, I'm not even joking.
I used to eat like double cheeseburgers from Burger King my sophomore and junior year, like you wouldn't believe, and I pretty sure I paid the price.
This movie subconsciously made you think about Burger King. It's this movie's fault.
Well, I obviously think about Megan Fox. What's going on?
Like Megan Fox, the Burger King. You better run into Megan Fox.
Maybe if I live in Hollywood, for sure.
Yeah, dude. I just picture you like pulling up to Megan Fox at Burger King and then being like,
yeah, definitely.
You're like, hey, Megan, like big fan. I love you. Anyways, can I get a double cheeseburger? I think it's just the funniest thing. I would just pictured.
Yeah, you would not find a girl like her at Burger King. No way.
Nah, you should be like, I'm gonna get the salad. Take one for the team.
I'm not gonna have it my way.
But like as soon as she leaves, you're like, can I get a burger with that salad too? Oh yeah. Boy, these tangents are too good.
But yeah, I mean, Sam was just hands down. I think he, through the first three movies, he's obviously the best human character.
Yeah, he's a great human character, underrated.
Yeah, if only because this goes back to what we were saying earlier in our discussion. That I think he did the best that he could with the script that he had. You can definitely, like I say, point out his acting skills are definitely carrying the movies for sure. and then the whole, the certain themes, especially in this first film, that he's able to find that courage within, and to help out the Autobots. That's definitely something that So the whole more than meets the eyes, I guess. But yeah.
Sure, for sure. I think Sam's my favorite human character. I love Bumblebee. I love that he like has a radio he talks with. I think it creates some of the more genuinely humorous moments in the movie.
About Optimus, man, he's definitely a cool character.
Optimus, just the whole cube thing, bro. I think is some like weak, like idiots like move.
I mean, I'm always looking back, man. I'm like, dude, if I was
Optimus is
I'd totally like Optimus to beat him, man. I don't want to hear your lectures right now on free will.
Well, I got a pretty good story with one of our neighbors regarding Transformers.
What happened?
So they came over, and I was at the age where I was like a teenager, like I kind of knew the ways of the world, that type of thing. My brother was
you knew better?
My brother was fairly young. Okay, he was still a kid. And our neighbors who were much older than me, they're asking him, this poor kid, they're asking him like, if you had the chance, would you rather hang out with the person who voices Optimus Prime all day or Megan Fox? He was like, the guy who voices Optimus, obviously. And then, as a kid, like it's a normal thing, but like looking back, it's like, I hope he wouldn't choose that now. These savages, bro, going after a little kid, doesn't know any better.
So what, they gave him a lot of flack for that or what?
Well, I'm sure it made him think that night. He was like, why did they think that? He was still really young, so I totally get it.
What kind of neighbors did y'all invite over? That kind of.
I mean, family friends, dude. The kids are family friends. But yeah, that's one of the first people I told that Transformers 2 is an even better film than the first one. And I wasn't alone. Like my friend from middle school called me up and was like, yeah, it's so much better. It's 10 times funnier. The robots are bigger. Like as a kid, like it gave me everything I wanted from a sequel. I overlooked the racist robots because I was a kid, didn't know any better. Like,
yeah.
And I remember one kid in middle school was talking about Revenge of the Fallen when it came out. It was like 8th grade. And I was kind of eavesdropping because I wasn't in that circle of friends. I was like doing my social studies assignment or whatever. And he was like, my problem with the movie is like they made Megan Fox look too sexy. I'm like, that's not the filmmaker's fault, and that's not a bad thing. Two things. That was I didn't say it obviously when I was listening. I'm like,
and
like a dude said that, like a straight dude. Like, I mean, no shade to anyone else, but like I was like, dude, that's what makes up for her bad acting and dialogue delivery. Like, otherwise, why is she there?
Hey, beautiful.
I'm breaking up with you, Sam.
Really? You sure? I'm not hearing a whole lot of conviction.
Well, I am, okay? So there's no reason for me to come say goodbye to you.
Wow, you almost sounded serious that time. Guess what? I made you a long-distance relationship kit. Yeah, I got your webcam so we can chat 24/7. All with Wiki all the time. You want the infamous D-Day shirt?
You kept your nasty, shredded clothes?
Yeah, of course I kept it, Michaela. It's like my Super Bowl jersey. I bled in this thing.
You think your little box of souvenirs is gonna keep me from leaving you?
I'm sorry if that sounds mean, but it's just the way it is. When she was cast as April O'Neil, Ninja Turtles, I knew it would be awful, and she was the worst part of that movie by far. She does not have the look or feel of April O'Neil at all if you follow the cartoons.
Not like the original, yeah.
She's fine as this character. I mean, she likes cars, and she's sitting on that motorcycle in her first scene, and I'm like, oh, Michael Bay's capitalizing on that teenage lust.
Okay. I remember when I first saw that scene with her, Revenge of the Fallen. Megan Fox is on a motorcycle painting.
It's like no one sits like that on any motorcycle, but Megan Fox does. There's a lot of slow motion running with Megan Fox, and just it's so blatant. And I think Michael Bay, in all of his movies, he's very unabashedly like himself. Like he knows what he's making, and he knows he's trying to please the fans, which I respect to some extent.
Friday the 13th. I think
he make that one.
Yeah, he did the remake.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen the original.
That one was another one where he's like just sexualizing
Michael Bay. He's I hope he one day does make an awards caliber movie. But
But hey, I was gonna say you can't have a conversation of the franchise overall without introducing what my personally top 5 bands are. Is
Linkin Park.
Yeah, man. I
Oh
mean,
man, dude, that's hands down one of the best parts. When New
the first
Divide
three
came
hit.
out, like I bumped it for weeks before the movie came out. Like I got on iTunes back in the day before Spotify. I was like, I paid for New Divide, like just to listen
I think
to
I
it
had,
on my
I
iPod.
think I had,
My
I had
iPod
LimeWire.
Classic.
I definitely had LimeWire at the time, so
I mean, I remember.
You know me, I had to get a free download and I'll delete the app at the time. I think it was LimeWire, can't remember. But yeah, what I've done is
Yeah, in this
still
movie,
hands down like
great
any.
song. The song in the third movie, Iridescent, was like kind of a slower one, but it was good. It worked.
It was still good, yeah.
It was used like in the middle of the movie.
Yeah,
I like the Imagine Dragons song they used in the fourth one too. I thought it was fine.
That one was decent. Yeah, I'll give him that. It was sad not to hear about them coming back, but I think Michael Bay wanted just to do something new. So
yeah, I mean, at that point in the franchise, like the song couldn't save the movie. So
but yeah, I think throughout the movies, the original 3, he does introduce, like incorporates the theme of the songs from Linkin Park. So that's pretty cool. Even at the end of the first movie, when the credits are coming up and the song "What I've Done" is like, you hear the beat.
Just the guitar part is starting up like before the credits. Like Optimus is still speaking. Yeah, it works really well.
There's more to them than meets the eye, and then yeah, that was
like, we will be here for the humans, and I'm like, I don't know, they're gonna kick you out pretty soon. and then they're gonna pull up and
then New Divide was awesome. That was
New Divide was a great song. Say what you want about the movie.
I do remember downloading that one now from the App Store. It wasn't iTunes, but I downloading that one. New Divide was like,
I put my money right in Steve Jobs' wallet and said, "Give me New Divide." I need this song. It's so good.
Yeah, Reticent, the last song from Linkin Park in the third movie, is definitely a slower song, but it's still good nonetheless. And
well, it's used like not for the credits, like it's used like in the movie, like halfway through, right? So
yeah,
so it's exactly. Like what's happening in the movie where like all hope is lost, like it fits the tone of what's going on. So,
and I think the third one too, I think that the reason why I put it slightly above.
I mean, it's my second favorite in the whole franchise, I would say.
Yeah,
I like Dark of the Moon for what it is. It's a fun blockbuster.
Yeah, and then like I think that one right now is like definitely coming out of recently coming out of school. It's been a few years now,
and that's the only one I missed in the theater because my dad was like, "I'm not going through that again.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go see that trash."
He's like, "No way, you're gonna make me sit in the theater for 2.5 hours watching the same crap all over again." He didn't say those exact words, but I could tell what he meant. He's like, "I'll take you to see any movie, but that one."
Except that trash. I thought I raised a better son.
I thought you were a movie guy. Like, come on, Transformers. Like, is there a new Harry Potter coming out? Can you watch that instead? Like, jeez, because that was
like
I would drag him.
Can we like rewatch The Departed? I thought I raised a better son.
Can we just watch Toy Story at home or something? Oh gosh, yeah. None of the things he actually said. By the way, he just said like, I don't want to watch Transformers.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen enough. Oh boy. Okay. Here's a new question I want to try on you. That's relevant to this movie. Do you have any ties to like the source material, like as far as Transformers goes? Because for me, I watched a little bit of the cartoons back in the day, but not actively enough to like have any ties to it when this movie came out.
Man, that's a really good question. Yes and no, if only because my dad was a big time Transformers geek. And I can say that because he's my dad. I think he had a few comic books actually. And I do remember as a kid, he was trying to get me into the Transformers because I remember he would go to Walmart and buy a few of the newer generation, I guess you could say, toys and like give them to me and I would play with them. But I really didn't find much appeal to them, unlike he did. And so he was a big Transformers fan. So I remember, occasionally watching some cartoons. And then when the movie came out, it was like, whoa, yeah, definitely want to 11-year-old kid. Let's see what's up here, And I think Sam is an actual original character from the original series, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Sam is, or he's Bumblebee's guardian. If it's Sam with Wiki, or if it's another name that they use, but it's supposed to be a young kid, a young boy as well. But yeah, that's like I said, I wasn't really too much into it, other than having that connection with my dad, being a big fan of them, and he was like a big Optimus Prime guy.
One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron. No! I'll crush you with my bare hands!
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, this movie, it's great if you're a fan of Transformers, but also it's very welcoming to newcomers who have never even seen anything regarding Transformers in their whole life, because it's just a solid action blockbuster with like decent comedy. So yeah, I guess one more thing I wanted to ask you is, are there any other? Because this movie is definitely an action blockbuster. We can agree on that as far as genre goes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But
More blockbuster for sure.
But and obviously it was the whole series box office smash. I mean, like made so much money. But how does it compare to other action blockbusters, and how does it compare to other movies from 2007?
Oh man, other movies from. Let's answer your first question. How does it compare to other franchises or other blockbuster movies? Well, for sure, first that comes to mind is Marvel Studios, and I would say that if you're looking for a better storytelling / better content overall, hands down, you have the Marvel movies that are a way better blockbuster series, so to speak, and some are blockbusters at that. But
I would say this first movie is as good as a lot of like the Marvel movies. Not like the great ones, but a lot of like the standalone ones.
I think you could definitely put it up with, for sure. My opinion, I could be totally off from others as well, but my opinion is that I think you could probably put it neck and neck with the original Avengers. If only.
You're never off with your opinion. It's your opinion for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think for me, I both had great storytelling, acting as well, and then also the summer of 2007. I'm trying to remember.
I can name a few movies from 2007 that stood out to me that I think are better than this movie, but and I didn't watch them all in 2007, for sure. But Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, one of my favorites in the series. One that became one of my favorites later on. When I first watched it, it was very dark and kind of overwhelming, but one of my favorite entries in that series. Superbad, my favorite comedy of all time, came out that year. Bourne Ultimatum, which is the best Bourne movie, and it's also the third movie, which is a rare treat. Ratatouille, saw that movie in the same dollar theater I saw Transformers in. I was really hitting that place a lot. I was giving them my business that year. The Simpsons movie had come out that year, which I'm watching The Simpsons now on Disney Plus. I watched the first 9 seasons. I don't know if I'll keep going. I've heard I've already watched past the peak, which seasons 3 through 8 are supposed to be like the Simpsons golden era. Knocked Up came out that year, which I just rewatched recently for like the 5th time. Great comedy. Yes, those are just a few movies that came out that year. There's definitely more.
I totally forgot the Bourne Ultimatum came out. I'm a Bourne guy.
Bourne series is I would say that's an excellent blockbuster series, because I think it just gets better and better for the first 3. Right. I'm not counting
the first 3. The 4th and 5th.
The Bourne Legacy should not have been a Bourne movie. It should have just been like an action thriller, because it's not really tied to it that much.
I think at the time they were trying to do like a Marvel cinematic, the whole shared.
I feel like Jeremy Renner's character in that movie, he wasn't really given a fair chance, because he was already in this franchise that Matt Damon is known for. And from what I've heard, Matt Damon saw the script for the Bourne Legacy and openly said, "I don't want any part of this project." Like, so that's why he wasn't in it. Like, he wasn't interested.
I don't want any part of this trash. I would have said.
But then Jason Bourne comes out, Paul Greengrass returns to direct, and it was still just like, all right, it was good, but it wasn't like as amazing as like Supremacy and Ultimatum, which are like, I think, some of the best action movies I've ever seen.
Oh man, yeah, I would definitely put that. Man, I think honestly, it's neck and neck with James Bond, with Daniel Craig's.
Well, Daniel Craig has made 2 great movies and 2 okay to good movies.
Did you like Spectre or no?
I like it more than Quantum of Solace, but I don't like it as much as Casino Royale or Skyfall. I think it's solid. I actually know like which ones are trash. Spectre's better than a lot of them, in my opinion.
Really?
There was a
Yeah.
whole era that was extremely cheesy. It's not like my favorite, but
I actually saw the original James Bond, like Doctor No.
Doctor No is okay. Sean Connery's best is Goldfinger for me. Goldfinger is great. That's a
I
third
think I
out.
need to watch that one for sure.
Yeah, From Russia with Love is good, but Goldfinger is one of my favorite Bond movies. Like, period. It's really good.
Skyfall is, I think, definitely number one.
Skyfall. Casino Royale is my number one, but Skyfall is my number two. So Daniel Craig has been in two of my all-time favorite Bond movies, which is pretty awesome for him. So one thing we like to ask on the show is, it's usually a pretty tough question because it involves the movie you talk about. It involves a movie that you already love, but is there anything in the movie that you would change to improve it, or do you think it's perfect the way it is?
Man, that is a really tough question. If I'm being honest, there's not a lot you could change to that movie, if only because, like I said, you take it for what it is, and it's a summer blockbuster movie. It wasn't meant to be a Oscar-worthy picture.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I think it delivers what it promises. I will say two things though. Obviously, the whole cube controversy, the Allspark. I think that's something I would change right away. Optimus Prime could just.
I'm thinking about it now. I'm just concerned, man. Like, what if? Okay, so Sam gives him the cube and puts the cube in his chest, but that doesn't stop like the Decepticons. It just stops the cube.
Maybe he should just tell him in general, like, if you have to destroy the Allspark, you can put it in a robot's chest. Hint, hint. Don't put it in me. Put it in someone else. I don't know.
And I always felt like throughout the series, like this, there was so many, like there was too many Decepticons for Autobots. Like I felt like they were heavily outmatched.
I don't know, if you take out the top guy, the followers will leave, dude. That's just how it works in the world. The Fallen isn't going to be here for another 2 years. He'll be in college by then, so don't worry about it.
A Starscream could just fly to another planet and like conveniently ask him.
They can travel. They can travel all through space. Like, they don't have to go to Earth. They can take over like Mars or something. I don't know. But another thing I would change, and this is kind of a criticism I have for a lot of Michael Bay movies. This movie could be shorter. It's like 2.5 hours long. I think it could be cut down to. I think it could be cut down to like 2 hours, maybe an hour and like 45. I think it could have been cleaned up a little bit and been like a even better movie than it already is. I still like it a lot. It's the best in the franchise for me. It's just a solid action movie that was made without too much pressure about thinking about the franchise, because it hadn't become a box office hit yet.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
But yeah, it's one thing that's interesting about this movie, about in terms of visual effects, is I watched a lot of movies from like the 80s or 90s and even like the 70s, and you'll watch them and be like, okay, the effects do not hold up. But this movie, it's been like 14 years since it came out, and the effects still hold up really well. So it's really interesting to see how special effects of newer movies will hold up in the coming decades.
I think what Michael Bay did with the robots in that movie were spectacular. The CGI was hands down impressive for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so it's okay if you have nothing for this, but before concluding this episode, are there any other talking points you wish to discuss, or do you have any questions for me?
Well, I definitely know what you would want Sam to do with the cube now. As far as, would you have chosen Optimus to have done it, or, put the cube in his chest, or, stuck with Megatron?
I think Sam made the right call in the moment, because if they killed Optimus, bro, like there's no defense. Like, what happened in Dark of the Moon halfway through would have been the rest of the franchise. Like, they're doomed. Like, that's it. Like, you need Optimus there to fight.
No more money to be made.
Yeah, you need one hero. Optimus is the hero. You need him to turn evil 4 movies from now. We need that plot. But if there ever came a situation where there was a pretty girl and I had to kick you out of my car, would that be okay? Like in the movie?
Oh man, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, for you, I'd do it. I can take an Uber home. It's not 2007.
Hey man, what's wrong with your radio?
You drive her home tonight.
What?
She's an evil jock concubine, man. Let her hitchhike.
She lives 10 miles from here, okay? It's my only chance. You gotta be understanding here, all right?
All right, well, we'll put her in the back. I'll be quiet.
Did you say put her in the back?
I called
Miles, I'm not
shotgun.
putting her in the back. You gotta get out of my car right
It's
now.
a party foul.
What rules?
Bros before hoes.
If she looks like Megan Fox, I would ask you to like, hey Yash, I hope you understand, man.
Yeah, because his friend was like, "All right, she can sit in the back." I'm like, "Bro, you're missing the point here."
She's fire, dude.
Yeah, make sure your car's not having car troubles. I mean, make sure. Okay, again, the whole scene where like his camera's like on her body, and Sam's like, "Oh my god, look at her, she's hot." Like it's just so.
What did he say? I prefer that they work on my cars or something like female.
Oh, she's like, I have a weakness for guys with abs and muscles, which is such a cliche. And then he's like, "Oh, well, I'm doing some of my arms here. I've been working in the front." He's like, the light reflects off the disco ball, and he's like flexing. That's pretty funny. I always thought that scene was freaking funny.
I was cracking him when I think he tells her like, while he's trying to convince her to get in the car, he's like, I was wondering if I could ride you home.
Yeah, there's a lot of little jokes that I had forgotten about that are pretty funny. And then also like when he's like, you should probably sit in my lap for safety.
Classic.
And I'm like, damn, like Sam's got moves. So if you had to convince someone to watch this movie, what would you tell them? What's your sales pitch? And it can be a recap of what you've already said. I mean, it's totally fine.
If I had to convince someone to watch this movie, I would just start off by saying it's relatable. As crazy as they may seem, if they just look at the cover of the movie and say, how is it that two alien robot races that are going at it for a civil war, and you introduce some humans, how is that going to be relatable? Well, I would, like I said, throughout this whole conversation, it's the story. If you think about just the first movie and forget the rest of the franchise, but if you just think about the first movie, and the main core of the story was that, there's more to people than meets the eye. So, we always find we find surprises within ourselves, that courage that Sam had and the bravery that he found within himself to take on that challenge. You know what? I may die trying to save, a completely different race that I don't know anything about, but if it's for the betterment of people, I'll do it. And, to me, that's super relatable to anyone who's going through, whether it be issues at work, personal issues. Sam is just an overall awesome character to relate to. Yeah, I mean, that I would definitely make that my thesis for people to watch the movie.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And I think the movie does have a lot. The movie itself is more than meets the eye because it is a blockbuster, but it does have those themes and solid storytelling that really make it stand out above the rest. But as far as telling people to watch this movie, I would want to know: do you like big action blockbusters, and do you appreciate good special effects? And if you do, at least one of those.
Popcorn ready, yeah, because you're gonna be.
I mean, you've probably already seen this movie, then, right? You've probably seen all of these movies. And I'm gonna give a sales pitch that my friend Charles would always say, because he was a big Transformers fan. I'd always see the movies with him, but he said, no matter what, you will at least appreciate the movie for its effects, which is 100% true. But this particular movie is it's a good time, and the humor it works for the most part. It does not work as well later in the franchise, but it's a Michael Bay movie, and it's one of his better ones, I think. So that's what I would say. Just it's a fun action blockbuster. It's a good time.
With that expectation, you'll be fine.
It unleashes the inner child in all of us, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Well, for sure, I'm gonna have to rewatch it now. I think I'm gonna have to rewatch the first one either tomorrow night or sometime this week. And then
I just watched it again to get ready for this. Because it's been a long time.
I have witnessed their capacity for courage. And though we are worlds apart, like us, there's more to them than meets the eye. I am Optimus Prime, and I send this message to any surviving Autobots taking refuge among the stars. We are here. We are waiting.
All right, so with that, we have reached the end of today's discussion on Transformers. I wanted to thank Lewis for joining us.
Happy to be here, Yash. Thanks again for the invite. It was super, super fun time and extremely grateful because this is my first ever podcast. So I was happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. We're happy to have you. We're happy to have you again on the show as well. And from all of us at Cinema Convos, thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show, give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to stay up to date on new episodes. And we hope you tune in next time.